Donald Trump is our president. Fuck. Keep calm, but your hair is on fire. Those words were written by Cesar Cardona, our guest today. He's a musician, podcaster, and writer who does not want to watch 4 years of what he calls the walrus, that double fist jerking motion dance Trump does whenever music is played. From Florida, Caesar drove to Los Angeles in 2014 with nothing but determination, sleeping in his car upon arrival. Now he teaches growth mindset, mindfulness, and social unification, empowering individuals to embrace clarity, connection, and purpose. Through talks and creative storytelling, he inspires audiences to navigate life's challenges and uncover the threads that unite us all. Caesar and his sidekick, filmmaker and poet Foster Wilson, have launched a new podcast called Beauty in the Break, which aims to uncover the common threads that connect us through raw conversations and personal reflections on resilience, healing, and transformation. Hey, man, welcome to the Lean to the Left podcast, Caesar. I do appreciate you coming on, and thanks so much for being with us today.
It's absolutely my pleasure. I am honored to be here.
Hey, can you give me a rundown of what you're up to professionally? I know you've got a lot of stuff going on, including this new podcast.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here. First thing first, I still live in Los Angeles here. I love LA, go Dodgers. What I am essentially is a public speaker first. So
Okay.
I giving talks on public speaking for, again, everything that kind of finds ways to bind and bond the human experience, the things from you to you, from you to the world, and then how you take information back from the world. How can we find ways to make things more fluid, cohesive? How can we make it more of the cosmic symphony that it really is? So that means mindfulness, certification in mindfulness from Rice University. So I learned the best way that somebody can find the tranquility and the clarity in their own living being from themselves to themselves, right? Growth mindset is how you approach the world. I teach that as well, how you perceive information in the world, that you can shift your thoughts and recognize that things are always going to occur in the world, but you can make the determination to decide when I take this task on, when I go about figuring out this problem, when I take action to solve this problem. It's not a win or lose, it's a win or learn. And I teach that sort of mentality for us to recognize the ability to stay resilient in a life where there's more and more challenges, as we see with the abundance of information. Musician as well, starting up this podcast called Beauty in the Break. I'm also a writer, blogger. Also, in the daytime as well, I am, and I've been doing this for the last 8 years, I'm a boxing trainer also.
What?
I'm a boxing trainer. I teach boxing.
Boxer trainer.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. What does that mean? You train people to be boxers or what?
Yeah. Originally, I trained fighters for a while, and then I wanted to make it more accessible to everyday people who could learn self-defense,
Oh,
who could get their mind set for whatever their day is ahead of them. So I started teaching them the techniques of boxing, the physical activity of boxing, the mindset of boxing, the workouts of boxing. Yeah, it's pretty much everything except for you're going to go into a match.
where did you learn all this stuff?
The boxing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I picked up boxing when I first got here. And for the first 2 years, I was training a lot. I was trained by Dave Gilmore, not the musician from Pink Floyd, but he's a trainer in Los Angeles. And then I was
Okay.
trained by Gene LaBelle and Benny Ukidis, which are two very known fighters. One's a kickboxer, one was karate. And
All
since
right.
he has passed away since then. And they taught me how to fight. And then once I got familiar with it, I started teaching other people, and then I got certified in it. And from there, I took it to non-fighting people.
Very cool. All right. So tell me this. We're living at a time where Donald Trump's been elected and sent to the White House, and he spent his first couple weeks tearing our government apart, scaring the hell out of a lot of people. What are your thoughts about what's coming down right now with that?
Yeah, first thing first, this it's such a common trope to do. This sort of buckshot, just completely go and throw everything as many ways as possible so people who are trying to stop it are inundated with where they should go next, trying to focus on
Mm-hmm.
where fire needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
While in the meanwhile, he's spending most of his time trying to line things up to add to the kleptocracy of his life. I think that his main point, as usual, is to distract, to confuse, to maintain division while consistently just doing what he can to benefit himself and the people around him only.
Yeah.
He's
Okay.
got, he's gotten to a space now where he can do that by being more convincing to other rich people in the world and other billionaires.
Yeah. Okay. All right. What do you think the Democrats and those Republicans who may actually think do to protect America from what Trump is trying to do with respect to dismantling our government and establishing his own version of an autocracy?
Yeah, so this will be a hard battle, won't it? First thing first, there has to be some sort of large revamping in the Democratic Party.
Mhm.
We have to reorganize where we're putting our focus, why we're putting our focus there. I don't know of any particular person who can lead right
Mhm.
about now. And as you can see, everybody trying to figure themselves out where they stand.
Right.
Everybody not necessarily pointing fingers, but just saying where was the cause? Where was the cause for this situation? We'd have to find we have to find another pedestal, another platform from which we can stand and talk about. He did something that was very effective by pointing his finger out to the rest of the world and saying they're the reasons why we are so upset. And then going
Mhm.
directly to the individual saying, you have less money now. Meanwhile, us as Democrats, thinking we were thinking more from a top down position, a zoomed out position of we have freedoms we should be giving, we have trans rights we should be giving. And these are all amazing things. People in the world right now who don't have that in their life, they're still not seeing dollar bills in their pockets. I agree with every single thing about rights that we should have. I'm very postmodern, I'm very far liberal. And I also recognize that a lot of people in society don't have that impacting their day every single day. So when someone like him comes out and says, oh, they're trying to distract you, oh, they're trying to get you to focus on something that has nothing to do with your life,
Mhm.
I'll help you with your dollar bill. Before somebody can even make sense out of nonsense, they're immediately going to go and look at their paycheck and say, why am I not making enough money? And he spoke to the fear in that. That means that we have to change our platform, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We have to find a way to remind the American people the progress that's been made so far, which I don't know that Joe Biden spent enough time talking about his own accolades. He
Yeah, I
did.
agree with that 100%. They did a terrible job of selling people on the achievements that they made. They did have achievements.
And it's one of these strange things that we try to take the high road, he will cut a corner. And the
Yeah.
person often who doesn't play by the rules, but then when we try to match and maybe give him some resistance, we're never
Yeah.
going to stoop as, excuse me, we probably won't stoop as low as he will.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, we're playing in his field. It was almost
Mhm.
a double-edged sword. And
Mhm.
Joe Biden could have stood on saying, remember when we were worried about the housing market when I was elected? Remember
Yeah.
we were for that bubble to burst? It didn't happen. Why not? And he could have went into the housing reform he put in.
Sure.
In that one time. I
Yeah.
feel like there is a level of productive contrarianism that is required here, where we have to put a little more contrarianism in the conversation and say, no, that's incorrect. And, or even tougher, I would say, if it was, I'm not a politician, but if I was a politician, I would turn and say, this man's lying straight to your face. Are you going to stand for that? Let's talk about what the facts are.
Mhm.
Instead of, I don't want to do this interview on a Joe Rogan podcast. She didn't. There's so many areas that we didn't give enough push towards.
Right. Right. Right.
Rambling here, but
That's
in
okay.
there's so many things that we could have pulled from that could have.
Yeah. Now, I tell you one thing that's really got me worried is this whole business of how he's given Elon Musk access to the personal financial information of millions of people. Social Security information, all manner of private info that he's now opened up to this guy Musk and the people working with Musk. Does that worry you?
Yes, it worries me, but it also doesn't put me in a state of cynicism. Uh,
Uh-huh.
Lately in my life, I feel like when I'm talking to people, the worry matches with the cynicism. We all should be worried about most things in life. We also have to know that how we can respond to it is where we probably should be pivoting. Him having
Hmm.
information, in my opinion, is again the beginning of a kleptocracy in this
Yeah,
society. And the thing that we know we can do is having these kind of conversations, having this dialogue,
right.
recognizing the larger picture of the power that still relies in who we are as people. Voting with our dollars. Let's talk about that. That's one of the biggest things. We can't stop him from doing what they did because already America spoke and they're going to get the president they deserve.
Yeah.
But the
What do you
one,
mean when you say voting with our dollars? What are you suggesting there?
yeah, sure. This is one of my favorite things. And I gave a talk last Sunday on the information era of this society, the end of the industrial era that we're living in, and the beginning of the information era. And with
Hmm.
that information, we are now gaining access to all information. We don't have to rely on media source to give us information. Those threshold guardians that were standing in front of the gate before we tried to walk in there, they said, "Let me show you what's in there so you don't have to go take a walk in." We don't have that anymore. Now we have access to as much information as possible. That being said, there are numerous, endless ways that we can vote with our dollars. The ones that come up for me first, the two I'm thinking of the most are B Corporation. B Corporation is a organization that has a framework set for companies where they can make a dollar still, they can make profit while still treating their employees fairly by way of wages, healthcare, lunches, so on and so forth, by treating the environment fairly. And for me, this is most important, holding their investors, their stake or shareholders, accountable as well. If the company does all of those, B Corporation will give them a stamp and it goes on their products, it goes on in their brick and mortar, or it goes on their website.
Hmm.
Now, you, as a person and you listening can go to B Corporation and you can put in a category you want: furniture, clothes, shoes, food, books, groceries, so on and so forth. And it'll give you a list of the companies that are treating their employees well, treating their employees fairly, being well to the environment, and also holding accountable their stake and shareholders, saying to them, if you're going to invest in us, your morals and ethics have to match us. You can find those companies that do that, and you can put your dollars there. There's an app that I use quite frequently, and it's made me adjust a lot of my day to day life spending. And the app is called Goods Unite Us. You download that app, and it tells you majority of the commercial companies and where their money goes: to the left, to the right, a bit of both, or not at all. Some companies won't play politics. Some companies just want to serve. And you can put your dollars there. That's a great way to start voting with your dollars. That's a way that you can vote every single day instead of waiting 2 years, 4
Yeah,
years.
that's true. That brings up the incident the other day where Costco refused to bend to Trump on his DEI edicts, whereas other chains, including
Target.
Target.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're going.
Yeah.
That broke
Yeah,
my
I
heart.
was so disappointed. I thought that Target was a better company than that and preferred going to Target rather than Walmart, for example.
Same, same. This Valentine's Day, I'll be brokenhearted. It's from Target and Snoop Dogg.
And yeah, people need to vote with your dollars. That's a very good point. And what is that app again?
The app is called Goods Unite Us.
Okay. All right. Let's check that out, people. Let's check out Goods Unitas. All right. Tell me this, Caesar. By placing incompetence in his cabinet and other positions of power, is Trump really doing this to save money, or is he doing this to set the stage for his own dictatorship?
Yeah, I tend to look at most things as an amalgamation of a lot of
Hmm.
stuff going on. I try to avoid absolutes and I try to avoid dichotomies
Uh,
because there's a multitude of reasons why somebody will do something. Without question, you can clearly see the man really wants adoration. I think he's wanting the Nobel Prize. I think he wants to own and run as many things as possible to feed the part of him that doesn't feel fulfilled. So yes, there's a part of that expresses the template of dictatorship.
mhm.
Uh, and also at the same time, there's a political field that he has to live in. And he has to, no matter, even with the three branches overall on his side here, there's still so much red tape that has to go through. And in any juncture, in any situation, any moment, you can find a broken clock being right 2 times a day. And at some point, he'll do something and it'll look like it's benefiting us. And excuse me, it will benefit us in some capacity. It won't even be his intention. He'll just hit the mark on it.
Hmm.
Who knows what other his cabinet has in store as well.
Oh man, I'm telling you what.
Between the infighting between them, what was his name? Vivek Ramaswamy is already out.
Hmm.
That's the first firing that we've already had. And
Hmm.
if you remember
Hmm.
his first presidential term, his first term, he had so many fires. There's just an endless amount of fires.
Yeah,
And I don't mean physical fires or metaphorical fires, people being let go because they disagreed.
yeah.
So when you ask me that question, if it's because he's trying to save money for the country or if it's a dictatorship, I I, I always lean towards he's going to search something for himself.
Hmm.
And if he sees an avenue to help someone else so he can brag about it, which will byproduct and inadvertently help, he'll do that also.
Do you think he's trying to use, let me see how I can ask you this question. With the talk of taking over Greenland and the Gaza Strip, Canada, and the Panama Canal, is Trump taking a page out of Putin's book and trying to expand U.S. imperialism? Or is he looking for ways to personally benefit financially from these steps? I'm thinking especially about the Gaza Strip when he said the other day, it's beautiful oceanfront property. To me, it just sounds like here's a guy that wants to take it over and build his own hotels and casinos and whatnot and find another place to rake in a bunch of money. Is that fair? Hey guys, I'm Bob Gaddy, founder and host of Lean to the Left. I'm excited to share our new book, Hijack Nation, Donald Trump's Attack on America's Greatness, co-authored with political analyst and professor C.J. Waldron. In Hijack Nation, we delve into the unfolding story of America's political landscape through a series of essays from leantotheleft.net. We explore how Donald Trump's presidency has transformed American politics, challenging our values and institutions. Hijack Nation isn't just a book, it's a call to action. It invites you to reflect on what it means to be American in a divided political landscape. Together we can reclaim our nation's greatness. So get your copy of Hijack Nation today. Visit leantotheleft.net and click on the Books tab to learn more and to order.
That sounds pretty fair to me. I would first thing first, let's make sure that we recognize we still live in a capitalist society. And this society in the word itself is about dollar sign before it's about people. And
Yeah.
so we have now gotten to a point where the peak personification of capitalism has now been represented in this man.
Mm-hmm.
So when I hear this stuff as a black man from the South, it doesn't surprise me because I grew up in a time and around people where I see that and I think, yeah, of course, that's what he would do. That's the kind of person. That's what he would do. This is also the society in which we live. He tried to. I forget the exact details for it, but he had this entire Greenland problem in his first term. And they gave him the same response. They're like, this is pointless. You're wasting your time.
Right.
A lot of it feels like I'm gonna go through a boxing metaphor.
Go ahead.
As a boxer, when you're with somebody, when you're in a ring with somebody, you're sparring with somebody, not every single punch is a haymaker. You can't do that. You do little bites here and there, and you find where the weaknesses are first.
Hmm.
Him him having this mentality of let me just call all of these random places, he's trying to find where the weak spots are. And like just like last time when Greenland, they brushed him off and nothing happened to it, he moved on. Mind you, all of this talk, he's got no problem whatsoever saying about these countries that are either peaceful or on our side already. He's got no problem keeping quiet about China. He hasn't said a thing.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that he doesn't have the I love that everyone always says, "Oh, he can't help what he says. He says whatever he feels, but he's never said anything wrong about China."
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me, Tension.
Yeah. Me too. Why is it, do you think, that maggots, the MAGA people, are still supporting this guy, even though his actions, the tariffs, killing off government agencies established to protect people, and deportations will be detrimental to their own interests? They're supporting him even though what he's doing hurts them. Why?
No, the answer to that question is way more complex than we'll ever know because every individual psyche is just a little different, right? Most of us have hands, everybody's got different thumbprints. That also being said, I want to make a point here and say that one of my clients is a Trump supporter, and my biological father is a Republican, lifelong Republican Trump supporter.
Yeah.
So when I my connection or my time spent with my client is much more than my biological father. He and I are we don't speak that much. We're very cordial, but we don't speak much. When I observe them standing up for his actions, I see a few things. I see an individual speaking from fear of either being left out, fear of the unknown, fear of not gaining their control in their own life. And now they found a man who can project that sort of aggressive selfishness in them and also point blame to someone else. I hear that fear in them when they speak. And then I also hear a large amount of, and this just as a observation of psyche. I'm not here to name call. It's not my way. I hear a lot of arrogance, the inability to say that they're wrong, the inability to want to even take a moment and say, what am I thinking here? How am I here? What does this actually mean? Where they've gone down so far down the rabbit hole, and we've already went down this exit, it takes too long for us to turn back. Whether they're doing that consciously or subconsciously. When I speak to those two individuals, and then I hear other people in the world speaking, I find those two things. They're speaking from a place of fear, and they're speaking for being left out, like I said, and they're speaking from a place of arrogance where they just can't say that they're wrong, and they're just going to keep doubling down on it. They're going to keep doubling down on it. It's very disheartening. It breaks my heart to see that because one of the most humble things you can do in the world is say, "I don't know this answer. And I'm wrong. Let me find what's right." And they're just not doing that. They're just not doing it.
Okay. I noticed in some of the material that you sent me, you described yourself in this way. I'm a mixed race, pansexual, self-employed Buddhist living in LA. My mother is a strong, independent, Southern black liberal woman, and my father is a work in the office Spanish New York Republican. Really, who am I? Have you figured that out?
As much as anybody can, because it's always changing, right? You live in nature, it's always changing. I love that you brought that up. I will tell you who I am.
Okay.
I resonate. This is what I know, and everything else is always subject to change because life changes. And if we hold on to something too tight and it changes, we're going to suffer
Yeah.
because we're recognizing we're trying to say things don't change.
Hmm.
But what I know for myself, what is came about in my life that I didn't find it illuminated within me,
Mhm.
is that beyond my thoughts, my beliefs, my actions, my race, my sexuality, my upbringing, DNA of who I am, the songs that I've written, every one of those physical things. First and foremost, I am a conscious being having a human experience. I am awareness. I am consciousness first. That has been eternal for me since the day I was born. And all of the rest of the stuff has changed over time. So that
Okay.
means I need to resonate with the eternal. So when I name all of those titles and I give all of those vast opposites, those polar contrasting things about who I am as a person, it's one or as a recognition of the duality of the multiality, I guess it's not a word, but it's a word now, that lives within me
Mhm.
and my ability to maintain and live a life with all of it. And I personally feel like if that entirety can live within me, then I can go out into the world and help everyone else recognize that they have the ability to live in the dynamism of nature in the United States, in on planet Earth,
Okay.
sharing that same thing as well. Because every single person has at least one moment where they felt like they were broken. So then our question is, what'd you do with that? And
Right.
clearly, right now. So how did you get here? And that's what we want to know.
Okay. You and your partner are going to do this do this podcast. Is it going to be a weekly thing, or how do
Yeah,
you envision that?
yeah, this will be bi-weekly.
Oh,
There
bi-weekly.
will be
Okay.
on YouTube. It'll be on all of the podcast streamers as well.
Hmm.
Bi-weekly, we're going to do 26 episodes for the first season, and we'll take probably about a month off, perhaps, and then do the next one if it goes well. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay. One of the things that I noticed in the material you sent me, you said something about the threads that unite us all.
Hmm.
What are you talking about there?
Yeah. I'm talking about two things: the symbolism of the human experience that we all share,
Okay.
and zooming into that a little more. I started finding in myths, religions, in stories, in movies, in real life, in contemporary art, in science. I found in every aspect, I found some mention of string or thread that talks about binding from the past to the present.
Okay.
And I gave a few talks on it actually, because all we are ever doing in this society, in this culture, as humans, from the beginning of human time until today and forward, we're projecting what's going on in our personal psyche. Now we do this thing called life together. And now we have a collective psyche where we work together. And then stories are getting told. And then actions in the world are put out.
Mhm.
So they're put out. And then studies are put out in the world. And if they keep using these same common motifs, these same symbols,
Right.
there's an implication of all of us having the same conversation. So when I say the thread that connects us all, I found in Norse mythology, Greek, Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, Judaism, in art, in film. I found it in quantum mechanics and string theory. I found it on the internet. All of this symbolic phrasing that we use that bind us together. And we do this because of the human experience. And so I take that thread and I give it a tug. Every time I give it a tug, I find one more thing we have in common.
Yeah.
And then I
Okay.
turn around and look at the world that doesn't, they're not showing that.
Yeah.
They're not showing that we have decommissioned 85% of the world's nuclear warheads. We in the 80s, we had a little less than 70,000. Now we have just over 9,000. Life expectancy's gone up, investments in renewable energy's gone up, literacy's gone up, people living in a democracy has gone up. We have a multitude of things. The global effort to restore and reforest the planet is on mark to hit their note by 2030. No one's talking about this. Everybody's being divisive. So I, as a person who wants to, again, be contrarian, but be progressive about it, I want
Hmm.
to the thing that is true and goes against what people are saying also. And if it happens to be something good like these stats here that nobody is talking about, I'm going to lean into that. The thread that connects us all is that realization.
Okay, excellent. Okay. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, Caesar?
Sure. Yeah. There is, I know you'll plug all this stuff in here, but there is a large amount of things that are going progressively well in the world. And there's more than just those two vote with your dollar ways that we can do this. And
Mhm.
I have started on my website a newsletter where I send out at least one data science-based source good thing happening in the world,
Mhm.
as well as a way that we can put our own selves in the world and help bring us together. So if anybody's interested in that, it's at CesarCardona.com. The newsletter will be there. You sign up for it, and we can do this thing together, this capital D democracy thing together.
Okay, excellent. All right, Caesar, listen, I appreciate you coming on and being with us on the Lean to the Left podcast. Interesting conversation. This guy, what'd you say? You're 35 years old?
35. Yes.
35-year-old guy who shows more wisdom than many people twice his age.
Thanks.
Thank you for sharing. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, Bob. Thank you for having me.